we are going to start a pumpkin drawing. We're going to have this at night, so it's a little spooky. Makes you think about Halloween. Not spooky scary, but it has a nice kind of Halloween-y feel. So we're going to be working on blue paper, so that already gives us the feeling of the night. And we'll start by doing our pumpkins. So the great thing about pumpkins is some are tall, some are skinny, some are big, some are small. There is no perfect shape. There's just kind of a way to kind of draw them so that they're all unique. So our first one we'll put towards the bottom of the paper, so in your bottom half of your paper. And we'll make it sort of in the center, maybe a little bit off center. And really the way we're going to start this is by doing it's almost like a leaf shape. So you're going to curl around one direction, like a parenthesis or a backward C, and then you're just going to, you can flatten out the bottom a little bit and then curl back up to meet. And it does not have to be perfect. This is the greatest part about pumpkins. They're all lumpy and bumpy in different ways. Okay, so that's one of our little bumps of the pumpkin, because pumpkins are round, but they have little bumps around the whole side. So we're going to go from the top of that, and we're just going to bounce out and back into connect. So that's like another little ridge of our pumpkin. Okay, now we're going to do another one, but we're going to go the other way. So we're going to go up and over, and maybe we'll have this one flatten out before it comes in. So some can go right into a point, some can flatten out a little bit, and then we'll give it one more ridge. So we'll do one more, and again, they're all different. So they can be a little rounder, a little pointier. There is no perfect shape to a pumpkin. And it may not look so fantastic now, but once we add our color and our shading, it will look much better. We will put a stem on it though. So for a stem, we're just going to move a little bit above our pumpkin. We're just going to draw a small circle. Okay, and then 2 lines down. So this shows the top of the stem and those the sides. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to draw 2 more pumpkins, so it's like a pumpkin patch. But we want to make sure they're all different. So we're just going to kind of do the same process, but we'll make each one a little skinnier or taller or more ridges around the edges. So how about we do some overlapping too? So we'll draw the left side of this pumpkin first. So let's start on the edge of our first one, and we'll just kind of go up and over. Okay, and then down. And if it hits the pumpkin, that's fine. If not, we'll just kind of go down until about there, until almost as low as the first one was. Okay. Now we'll go for a middle piece of our pumpkin. So this one we'll do just sort of like an oval. Okay, and then we'll do a left side of our pumpkin. Okay, so this one's really tall and skinny. If you didn't like it being that tall and skinny, we could always add one more on. So we could add one more piece. Okay, and you can always widen it out like that. Okay, again, the stem.
Today is Thursday, October 31st. Day 4 on your schedule. Please stand for the pledge to the flag.
Okay, and we're going to add one more pumpkin. And we're going to make this one a little more spread out, and we're going to make it significantly smaller. That's going to make it look like it's sitting in the distance. So we're not only going to make it higher on the paper to make it look like it's farther away, but we're going to make it smaller. So same idea. We're going to start with that kind of leaf shape, that long oval shape, and we'll just, again, you can build out a couple times with these other pieces. And you can do it a couple times or one time. Remember, every pumpkin's different. So there you go. There's mine. Okay, and again, the stem is an oval, 2 lines. Okay, might have been hard to squeeze that in there, but that's what we're going to do. So now we're just going to throw in some shading for our pumpkins. So you're going to want yellow, orange, and red, or yellow, orange, and dark orange. So whatever you can find. The more colors and variations you have, the better. So what we're going to do is we're going to start at the top with yellow. We're going to do this because the moonlight is going to be above it, and that's giving all the pumpkins a highlight at the top. So we're just going to carefully go inside this shape with yellow at the top part of each pumpkin. Try not to overlap the black if you can help it, because that will just kind of smear it up. But it's not a big deal because they're sitting in a pumpkin patch, so they could be dirty and smeary a little bit, and you can kind of get away with that. But always do your best to avoid that kind of stuff. You can always add dirt and smear it on purpose later if you need to. So again, just going around hitting the top of each one of these ridges. Okay, sometimes you need to spin your oil pastel to find the pointy part if you're trying to get into a little spot. So take your time. I always put my pinky out. That actually helps me keep my finger steady. So that might be something you want to try. And if you notice, my other hand is holding the paper so it doesn't wiggle around on me, because oil pastels are a little, they're not sticky, but they can kind of grab onto the paper a little bit. So if you don't hold the paper, sometimes see, they'll pull your paper around. So always kind of notice and watch what my hands are doing, because that's a good signal, and it's something that you should try to be a good artist, because I've learned to do all these things through years of practice. Okay, so I finished my yellow. Now I'm going to go in with my light orange. So if you don't have like a light orange or a yellow orange, then it's fine for you to go straight to orange. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start just filling in this orange in its own space, sort of like stripes. But then I'm going to kind of pull it into the yellow, and oil pastels are great because they sort of mix together like paint, because oil is very kind of slippery and it doesn't dry fast. So it gives you time to pull those colors together, and you can tell there's not really a line anymore where one color starts and ends. It blends really nice. So I start, again, giving that light orange its own space, and then I pull it up, not all the way into the yellow, just enough that they can sort of start to mix together. And again, you do this on all four. Or three. I said we have 4 pumpkins, but we have 3. Halloween's got to my brain. It is Halloween on the day I'm recording this video. If you get little clumps, like see, I don't know if you can see, I have little clumps of oil pastels, you can always shake them off. Sometimes if you brush them off, it smears, so I just like to give it a little shake. Or you can try to blow it off, but try not to wipe it with your fingers. And try not to get carried away shaking your paper and blowing it every 2 seconds, because then you'll never get anything done. So, if you notice them, ignore them until they really start building up and getting in your way. Okay. Alrighty. So there's all my orange sections. Make sure you're not missing any. It's very easy to miss one, especially when you have so many. Okay, now I'm going to go to my kind of regular orange. Same idea. I'm going to give it its own space first. I'm going to take this all the way down to the bottom. I might add another color in to shade it even more, but I'm going to wait and see if I need it. So once I fill in its own space, I start blending it in. And again, there's not really a hard line where one of my colors starts and ends. They kind of just pull together and blend, which is really nice. Okay. One at a time. And hopefully you can see they're starting to look like pumpkins. But one thing I always would tell all my students is, you can't judge your drawings too early. When it's not finished, of course it's not going to look great because you don't have everything in yet. So you got to be really patient with yourself when you're working on a drawing like this that has lots of steps. Make sure you're filling in each section as completely and thoroughly as you can. Okay, sometimes I like to rub the sections together to help the colors blend a little bit, but again, don't get too carried away doing that yet, because we can always do all that towards the end. Sometimes you got to worry more about getting everything in and then less about details, and you can do your finishing touches at the end. Otherwise, you'll never finish anything. So there's my third one. Okay, third one is really quick because there's not much to fill in there. Okay, now what I'm going to do to make this a little more realistic is I'm going to take a little bit of white and I'm going to mix it in with my highlight at the top so that the highlight of my pumpkin is not just yellow. So I am going to mix in a little bit of white, each one. Okay, and like we said, every pumpkin's different. So if it's looking a little too yellow to you, you can add some orange in, but don't forget, once we have our moonlight in there, it will make a lot more sense having that yellow on there. So I'm just going through and I'm adding a little bit of light orange to my top and a little bit of white to my highlights. You can have some areas that are stronger, and I'm pushing down pretty hard too. That's something to remember is once you're layering onto oil pastels, it doesn't always want to get on there, so you got to push pretty hard. And sometimes you can't even see the results of what you're doing, but it's there, it's happening. Okay, so we'll get the stems colored in real quick, and then we'll start working on the background. And then if we want to make any more changes to our pumpkins, we can always do that at the end. So what we're looking for now is like tan or brown. This can be a lot of different colors. So right now I'm finding this kind of tan. It's almost like a yellowy color. There's this one. You can always throw black in there too if you can't find it. So I'm going to put the light one, the really light tan, on the top because again it's getting that moonlight hitting it. So that should be the brightest. Anything on top, if your light is up top, it should be darkest. And then, oh, here's a nice brown. Okay, sometimes you guys have to wait and share, and then I'm going to put brown in for the side of there. Okay, and if any streaks show up, that's okay. All right, so there's that. So there's my 3 pumpkins. Now they just need a place to sit. So what we're going to do first is we're going to map out where the ground ends and the sky begins. So we're going to make this sort of like an uneven ground because it's kind of like on a hilly pumpkin patch. So I'm just going to grab a green, and there's a couple different greens, and for now it really doesn't matter because we're just kind of mapping something out. So there's light greens, dark greens, whatever you want. And I'm just going to start doing like, hope you can see that. I'm going to grab a lighter green just so you can see it because on the video I don't know if it's showing up too well. I'm just going to do like bumpy lines, so sort of like zigzags, just to show where like the grass is growing, and it's just going to kind of go, it should never go through the pumpkin. Okay, so right now I'm pretending that there's like a hill here, so I'm going to pick it back up here. I'm going to have it come up a little bit here. Okay, good. So now I'm just going to go in, I'm going to have a little bit of fun. So I'm just going to start throwing in some green. I don't have to fill in every little section, which is fun because the grass can be at different heights. Some could be in shadow. So I'm just sort of coloring this in, and I'm overlapping that white because I think the white that I used was a little too bright, but I used it so you could see it. So I would suggest like using a yellow green if you can find one, or regular green. We're just going to start filling that in. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do sort of like rows of grass, and then I'm going to fill in between with a dark color, so that way there's kind of some shadows in my grass. So now that I have my top row, I'm going to go through and I'm just going to kind of, and again, it should be a little uneven. I'm not going to do another row. I'll do another row. And maybe they come together at certain points. I'm just leaving some empty areas. I'm going to work some of that lighter green in. As long as you're always going up and down and you're keeping the grass not super long, like a field, you know, we're doing it just like grass, then you can get away with doing things in a lot of different ways. So I'm just picking areas to sort of add my rows of grass. And again, making sure I'm always just going up and down, pressing hard. Okay. I'm working some of that light color over it. Okay. Now I'm going to go in with a darker green, or you could even do a black if you wanted. If you can't find a dark green like this, I'm starting to fill in between my rows with this dark green. That's going to be like the shadowy color of the grass. Just like with pumpkins all being different sizes, all blades of grass can be slightly different colors. It can be yellow green, dark green, especially out in the night. Like there's going to be a shadowy area underneath these pumpkins where they're sitting. So underneath every pumpkin you should have some dark areas for where the pumpkin's actually sitting on the grass and blocking the light. Artists are always looking for shadows. So we're just going to take our time now, and we're going to work a dark color into the rest of this. Okay. I know it's going to be tempting to just scribble and go crazy, but pay attention to make sure your oil pastel is going up and down the whole time. Sorry, my screen is shaking. I'll try to be more careful. But the screen shaking hopefully will show you how hard I'm pressing. Because if I press light, it's just going to look like a crayon. Oil pastels, the good thing about them is they can go on so thick that they will look like paint. And they really will cover up the color of the construction paper, where crayons would not. So press hard so that you're actually getting the benefit of using these oil pastels. Okay, so there's like my rows of grass. Now, like I said, I would prefer to have like a yellow green in there. And if you don't have a yellow green, again, the great thing about oil pastels is that they mix. So you could just take some yellow and start adding some yellow swipes. Not everywhere, as long as they're up and down like this, like grass. You can just start adding them into a couple places to give some of the grass some more highlights. Okay. All right, so there's my little patch. All right, so now all we have left is our sky. Now, luckily, the sky color is already kind of there, so we're just going to add the moonlight. That's going to make our highlights on our pumpkin make sense. So we're going to do this like with a circle pattern. It doesn't have to be perfect circles, and we're actually going to blend out. So the same way we blended from yellow to orange, we're going to blend from white to light blue to the dark blue that we already have. So don't worry about perfect circles, because all you're going to do is you're going to keep your hand moving in that circular pattern, and everything will be fine. So just keep going in a circle. I started with a little one, and now I'm sort of just spreading it out. Okay. As I'm spreading it out, I am pressing lighter and lighter because I'm going to start mixing in some blues. So a lot of this white I'm going to overlap. So again, it doesn't have to be perfect, but just start going around in a circle. Okay, and that's creating your first kind of layer of moonlight. Now I have a light blue, so I'm just going to start overlapping that. Okay, if it's too hard to go all the way around, you can kind of do a section at a time, just as long as you keep your hand moving in an arc. Don't ever start going straight up and down or straight side to side. Always go in an arc. Okay. It's a little harder to press down hard when you're staying so loose. So you can see my oil pastels are going on a lot lighter because I'm not pressing as hard, because it's hard for me to stay loose and circular and fluid while pressing harder. You can do it, but I'd like to start loose until I get used to the feeling, and then you can start pressing harder as you go. Okay, so there's going to be my second round. Now, we don't want to ever cut through our pumpkin, so if we do hit our pumpkin, we got to stop and then pick up and put it back down after the pumpkin. That's a little tricky. Just so do your best. Just watch what you're doing. The big thing is keep your eye on your paper and on your hand so that when you get up to a pumpkin, you just slow down. Okay? Bring those lines right up to the pumpkin and then stop. And make sure we're also going right up to our edge. It's very easy to stop here and be like, oh, I'm out of room, but just take it right off the edge. If you get some marks on the table, we can clean them up later. Okay? Always make sure you're following that circular arc. All right, so I pulled this out pretty far. And just like before with the pumpkins, we can always go back and fix something if we want to adjust the colors, but we're just going to get it all in for now, make sure we finish the whole thing. Okay, now we're going to go to a next blue. So, I picked a very light blue the first time. Now I have this kind of blue. You may not find the same colors as me every time, so that's okay. Just kind of work with what you can find. Okay, so again, I'm starting and I'm following that arc. As the circle grows bigger, it is going to be more just like an arced line instead of a circle because it's so big that you can't complete it all in one round. So for the rest of this, we're really just kind of going like an arc, sort of like a C shape. And we can start kind of spreading it out more because we're going to just fade this into the sky color. So I'm pressing lighter and I'm sort of just pulling it out. Okay. This one too. I'm going to start overlapping a little bit. Now I'm arcing the other way. I'm very curious to see how these turn out. This will be my first real drawing tutorial for an elementary school project where it's a whole drawing start to finish and not just like a part of a drawing. So I hope you guys do well and enjoy this. Okay, so there's that. So now once you're done, you kind of take a look and decide, if you want to add anything. I feel like this area looks empty, so I think I might actually go in with some black. Or I think this is actually a super dark blue. And yeah, it is. And I'm going to start just filling in so it's not just empty paper. Sometimes with drawings like this, even though the sky color works, when it's empty paper, it just doesn't always look like it's finished. That's what I think. So I like to get a color on there, and then the sky color can still show through the paper color. But now we have every area filled in with oil pastel. Okay. Now I'm going to have less of that color over here because my moon is so far to the left that it doesn't get as dark on this side. So I can throw a little bit in over here, but I don't want to do too much. And again, we're going to try not to hit our grass, but we're going to get as close to it as we can so it's not as empty space. Okay. All right, so this is the point in any drawing where you take a look, you decide what you like, you decide what you don't like. I think I can make this even brighter So I'm going to go back through and I'm going to hit it again, and now I'm pressing even harder. I don't know if you can tell in the video how much brighter that just got. So I'm just kind of going to repeat this process. And I don't know if you can tell, some yellow is smearing in there, but that's okay with me because it's sort of like a glowy moon color. That's the one bad thing about oil pastels is they pick up any colors that they touch. So if you didn't want that yellow on there, you'd want to kind of scrape it off on the back or something so that it doesn't come off on your paper. Luckily, I don't mind it because I think, the yellow will help make this look like moonlight. You could put a little yellow in there, but you got to be really careful that if you add a lot of yellow, it's going to mix with the blue and then it's going to look green. Okay, so I'm just going to do this whole sky one more time with a little more pressure this time. Okay, because now my hand's used to going in that circle, so I can do it and press harder a little more confidently. Okay, so please watch. Okay, and there is my pumpkin patch. So I think at this point I could end the video, and maybe I will. I might just turn it off while I'm talking, but I'm going to go through, and you may not see it. I'm going to add a little bit of red into this. That'll add some shading to the base of my pumpkin. I don't know if you guys can even tell what it's doing, but it just gives that orange a little bit of a deeper color at the bottom. You could do it with red. You could do it with a dark brown. You could do it with a little bit of black. Also, you just want to be careful with black because sometimes black can take over things really, really quickly. Even a hint, I'll do it right now, a little hint of that super dark blue will help round out our pumpkin at the bottom. I like that, actually. And then again, you can use your finger if you want to gently, gently pull it together if it looks too streaky. But again, it's a pumpkin, and it's sitting in a pile of pumpkin patch, dirty grass, so if it does look a little streaky, that would make sense for this drawing, so it's okay. So I'm taking this as a little bit of blue, in case you missed it, and see how it's adding that shadow to the bottom of my pumpkin. Okay. So at this point, look and see what you need to fix. If you need to add more grass, if you need to do another coat on your pumpkins to make them brighter. Drawing, sometimes you can really work on and edit for a very long time if you want them to be good. So good luck, and I hope you enjoy it.